Greetings, folks, and welcome to today's show. Our subject today is deals with the hypersonic development program going on across the Department of Defense. And hypersonics is a very hot subject these days. This is actually our third show on the subject. And today we want to talk about the project that's been announced and is underway to do a major transformation of the J5 test facility at Arnold to do hypersonic propulsion testing. And our guest today is Lance Baxter, who is the director of the overall hypersonic test force at AEDC. And he's going to tell us about the particular project to transform J5. And so, Lance, thank you for joining us. We appreciate that.
It's my pleasure.
And before we get into the hypersonic business, tell us a little bit about Lance.
Well, I'm an Air Force government civilian. I've worked for the Air Force since my graduation from the Air Force Academy in 1994. I've had the privilege of being here at Arnold in a number of different roles, both as an active duty military and as a government civilian since 2000. I've had opportunities in space and missiles, in our plans and programs, technology development, and now this new opportunity that I have to lead the Hypersonic Combined Test Force.
And you have been in this area since around 2000, as I recall, 2001?
That's correct.
Okay, so there must be some family involved in that too.
Yes, so we have, my wife and I have 3 sons and a foster child, and they've grown up in this community. Our oldest is now at the Air Force Academy. He's an alumni of the Tullahoma High School. Yeah. Our middle son, our foster child, are at Auburn and Carson Newman, and also alumnus. And,
Auburn, is he engineering?
No, actually, he's in the School of Agriculture. So.
Very good. All right. Well, anything else comes to mind? Let's just take a short commercial break, folks, and we'll come back and get into the hypersonic business.
All I have to do is think about what I was physically before and what I am now, and I don't ever want to go back to that original situation.
The overall mission of the rehab team is always what is best for the patient and how we can facilitate maximum potential from every resident.
Well, the most important thing to me is that I'm allowed to do whatever I want to do,
Everyday Miracles, Life Care Center of Tullahoma.
Tired of paying for monthly telephone service, expensive long-distance bills, and all those crazy taxes? Are you sick of spending money on telephone equipment, maintenance contracts, and service calls, all for a phone system that shackles you to 100-year-old technology and your desk? Stop it. It's time to ship your phone system to the cloud. What can the cloud do for you? Bring together remote offices, workers, and employees in the field. Make sure that you'll never miss calls by delivering them to multiple devices. Modernize faxing by allowing multiple faxes to be sent and received at once. And deliver to email. Get your voicemail messages instantly through email too. And take advantage of an endless supply of customizable features. Host My Calls can deliver the cloud. All of this technology with low upfront costs and not one penny in capital expense. It's time for a phone solution you'll truly love from Host My Calls. Call the number below.
We're back, folks, and we're talking today with Lance Baxter, who is the director of a hypersonic test force at AEDC. And we want to talk particularly about the new program they have going to transform the J5 test facility into the hypersonic business. So, Lance, first of all, I know DOD, broad-wise, is spending billions of dollars and there's very high interest in hypersonics. So to first of all remind everybody what hypersonic is, and then how this fits into the overall project.
Absolutely. So hypersonic refers to generally things that are traveling at speeds higher than Mach 5. For those who have been around for a little while, supersonic flight was first encountered back in the 1960s as we started to exceed broke the sound barrier, right? Chuck Yeager and company in the X-1, and so at that point, the speed of sound is about 700 miles per hour, and so each Mach number is an increment of that, right? So Mach 5 would be about 5 times the speed of sound, or about 3,500 miles per hour. It's about fast enough to get from here to Atlanta, or from Nashville to Atlanta, about 4 minutes.
Okay, but then you're going to take your test facility up to Mach 7, I think, and so it'll take 2 minutes to get to Atlanta. Huh? Okay. Well, as I say, give us a little overview of the overall hypersonic DoD
Absolutely.
program.
So hypersonics has been identified by the Air Force as one of what they describe as game-changing technologies. These are technologies that have the potential to impact how we as a nation can conduct military operations in a manner that's similar to the impact that the development of stealth technology had on our aircraft.
Okay, but we're talking about design. You've got a major project, I would think, in designing and developing the hardware that is going to fly it at Mach 5 or 6 or 7.
Absolutely. So there's a number of demonstration programs currently being operated by the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, DARPA. To demonstrate that we can indeed put together technologies and vehicles that can travel at these speeds over the ranges that we have identified that we might need to use them as
Do you have any feel
weapons.
for how far they are in developing the hardware itself?
So they are to the point that they're conducting some test flights on some of these DARPA demonstrations. There have been some recent test flights, and some of these test flights even go back as far as the X-51 vehicle that was actually built here in Tullahoma.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about your facility itself. We're basically talking about developing a hypersonic propulsion test facility, test and evaluation, if you will, and so that takes J5 from whatever it can do now up to the Mach 5 or 6 or 7 category, and tell us what kind of propulsion systems are you expecting? When are you going to get one? When are you going to put one into the test?
That's a great question. So the class of propulsion systems that this is designed to test are the supersonic combusting ramjets. And so this is a class of engine that actually the fuel and air is being burned in a flow that's still traveling at a speed that's higher than the speed of sound. If you think about the faster air is moving, the harder it is to keep a flame lit. It's like blowing on a match, right? Except in this case, we're blowing on a match with an air source that's going, faster than 700 miles an hour. So keeping that match lit is a real challenge. So those scramjet propulsion systems require the airflow into them to be representative of the airflow that they would see when they're actually in flight in order to operate. And so we're going to have to present that engine with an airflow that looks to it like it's traveling at these Mach 6 speeds.
Yeah. So you're talking about being able to blow air through this test facility at that speed.
Absolutely, and in order to and that's where I was going to go. In order to really simulate what that looks like, because that air appears to be hot as the vehicle is flying through it, due to compression and due to the velocity at which the air molecules are hitting the vehicle, we have to preheat that air in order to simulate that. And that's one of the biggest technical challenges, is bringing that air temperature up to the the temperatures we're talking about here are hot enough to burn aluminum, to melt steel. There are very few materials that we have that are structurally sound, lightweight, and can sustain these kinds of temperatures.
Materials, what materials?
So most of the materials that are being investigated right now tend to be composite materials, carbon composites, carbon phenolic composites, and even these materials don't really stand up to those temperatures. They just they do what's referred to as ablating, which is really kind of a slow burning at a slow enough rate that they can maintain. They can carry that heat away from the rest of the structure, and they can maintain their structural integrity while they're doing that.
Yeah. You are. When would you? Are you going to be able to test while your 3 phases to your project? Are you going to be able to test as you go along, or you kind of wait till the end?
That's a good question. So the program as it's being designed today will establish its first increment of capability where it will be able to present a test article with a Mach 6 realistic clean air flow, and that capability will be established within the next 3 to 4 years. At that point, we could test, and if needed, then we'd be able to go ahead and start supporting systems at that level. The next block is to introduce a variable Mach capability that would allow us to change the speed that the vehicle under test is experiencing. This would simulate its actual flight, where it's going to launch from an aircraft at a certain speed, be accelerated up to a high speed, but then it will either accelerate or decelerate throughout its flight profile as needed, and the second phase of the facility, second block, will give us the capability to simulate that. The third block takes us up to the ability to simulate up to Mach 7.5, which is a much more challenging project. At this point, we're really testing the very limits of the materials that we can make the test facility out of as well.
So you will be able to take it up after the second phase up to around 6. 5.
Correct.
Yeah.
So the first phase establishes a Mach 6 up to Mach 6 in discrete speeds. Second phase allows us to change Mach number, and then the third phase lets us go that next step to Mach 7.5.
So the second one takes you to about a little over 4,000 miles an hour, and the last one up to 7 sevens.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Very fast.
Okay, very fast. All right. And you're talking about then the overall project. You're looking at going up to 7. And what's the time frame that you're looking at? What you're hoping for now? I realize there's a lot of bumps in the road
that has to happen
there.
between now and then. But right now, the program schedule as it's laid out has us achieving that final capability within about 5 years. So 5 to 6 years, it will be fully operational. It will achieve its full operational capability.
Okay. All right. Pretty good. Well, with that, let's take a short commercial break, folks, and we'll come back and go some more.
Russell Barnett Hometown Auto Rental has proudly served your auto rental for over 30 years. Check out this huge selection to choose from. Small car, mid-size car, full-size car, crossover vehicle, SUV, minivan, pickup trucks, 12 and 15 passenger vans. Whether big or small, Russell Barnett Hometown Auto Rental has them all. Stop by our 2 locations to serve you, Tullahoma and in Winchester. And remember, my question is, why rent anywhere else?
It's time for every family and business in Tullahoma to go green and recycle. Tullahoma Public Works makes it simple and easy to recycle. Just place your recyclable materials, paper, plastic, aluminum, and cardboard beside your garbage container on the same day your garbage is picked up. Your recycled materials don't have to be in a fancy container. Recycling is not only the right thing to do, it makes sense. Recycling pays. Paying to bury our garbage costs each of us. Please do your part. Let's go green, Tullahoma, and recycle.
It's your trademark. That's something special everyone knows and remembers. It's your thing. It's made holidays special for decades and summers unforgettable for the entire neighborhood. It's made everyone laugh every single time. Don't let illness or injury keep you from doing your thing. The rehab team at Life Care Center of Tullahoma is ready to help you live well.
I'm meteorologist Leland Statham from the News Channel 5 Weather Center. Look to Jim Fuller and crew for local news night here on Channel 6.
We're back, folks, and we're talking with Lance Baxter, who is the director of a hypersonic test force at the center. And we're talking now specifically about a project they're undertaking to transform the J5 test cell into the capability of handling up to Mach 7. So tell us a little bit, Lance, about in garden variety language, about what is involved. What are you actually doing during phase 1?
That's a great question. So J5 is a rocket test facility as it stands, so it doesn't have any way to provide air to the test article. So we're going to be building the heater
at the speed you need.
Well, at any speed right now. Right now,
yeah.
it encloses the rocket engine, and the rocket engine does all the work. So we need to be able to provide it with high pressure, high temperature air. And so building that high pressure air supply will double the Arnold Air Force Base's high pressure air storage capability in this project, and we will dig a pretty large pit and install a heater that will allow us to heat the air to the temperatures necessary to achieve that Mach 6 capability. We'll then also have a system that mixes that hot air.
What kind of heater are you talking about? Is this some big monstrous gas?
So it is kind of, actually. So the heater is actually not very different from some heaters that are used in a number of industrial capabilities and applications. Really what it is it's a giant stack of bricks that are made out of a very special material that can withstand these temperatures. Those bricks are then heated by a natural gas flame to very, very, very high temperatures. Turn off the flame, and now we can flow air through this pile of white hot bricks, and the air then picks up that heat. So it works almost like a battery, where you store electricity in a battery. This battery stores heat. So you take a big pile of bricks and you heat it up really, really hot, and then you slowly take that heat back out of the bricks with the air that flows through it.
So your heater really is a hot brick.
It is.
A bunch of hot bricks.
A bunch of hot, literally tens of tons of hot bricks.
Yeah, interesting. You put it that way, it's not quite as exotic as it sounds. Is it? So,
at their core, many of these technologies are really very simple. They're just there's some detail about them that makes them really, really hard. And in this case, it's those temperatures. All of the bricks that you have that your house might be made out of would shatter and turn to dust if you tried to heat them to this hot.
Yeah.
So it's a very, very specialized technology.
Very special brick. I don't imagine those are particularly cheap, are they?
No, so the entire project, which involves not just buying all of those bricks, but also putting them together in a very specialized way and building all the high pressure air and control systems and all of the things that go along with that. This whole project for taking the existing J5 test capability and turning it into a hypersonic test capability, hypersonic propulsion test capability, is budgeted at this point to be about a $240 million project.
Okay. Let me see if you can correct me if I say this wrong. I think that the present J5 facility, your heat is really provided by the propulsion system that you're testing. Did I understand that right?
So the J5 facility was designed to test a solid rocket motor, so it didn't need any outside heat. It just needed to needed to provide a vacuum and have a way to get rid of the exhaust.
Right.
We'll be leveraging that portion. We're going to be able to provide the vacuum conditions that represent high altitude flight and get rid of the exhaust from this using those existing systems. Putting it in this facility and this existing mothballed capability is saving the government probably around $150 million. It would have cost us about that much to build a new facility just to take care of that exhaust portion. So we're leveraging this infrastructure that already existed at Arnold.
Huh. Interesting. Okay. All right. So your first phase then, and again, basically, folks, we're talking about taking that test facility from the engine that's being tested, providing the heat that is necessary. You're taking it from now to providing much more heat from an outside source to test the engine. Okay, and all right. Well, let's talk about phase 2 then.
So the second block of the capability is to actually give us the ability to change Mach number while we're testing. So under Block 1,
you're testing.
Correct. So under Block 1, we'll be able to set the conditions up and be able to give, for example, a consistent Mach 5 capability or consistent Mach 5.5 capability, and that engine will be exposed for a number of minutes to that flow at that condition. But we have to stay on that exact same Mach number for the entire duration of the test. Block 2 gives us the ability to then change. So during the test period, we might be able to simulate what the test article would see when its initial booster takes it to some Mach number, say Mach 3, and it accelerates then to Mach 5, and we could expose it to that profile. So the air would not always be at the same speed and same temperature. It would vary in speed and temperature to simulate that speeding up or slowing down that the vehicle might see in its flight.
Okay. All right, and then phase 3 then, you're basically jacking up your heat storage capability, it sounds like.
That's true. So just like the bricks in your house would fall apart if we heated them to the heat temperatures that Block 1, that the Block 1 heater, those bricks would fall apart if we heated them up to the temperatures that we would need for Block 3. So Block 3 is investigating another material for those bricks to allow us to heat the air to an even hotter temperature. And the capability then will allow us to mix that very, very hot air with the other hot air that is already in place from Block 1 and any cold air necessary to achieve that exact temperature necessary throughout the duration of the test.
All right. And the temperatures we're talking about in Block 3, folks, is we're looking at up to Mach 7, I guess.
Correct. So we're simulating speeds up to Mach 7.
Yeah.
These are temperatures in the neighborhood of 3,400 Rankine. These are very, very high speed, or very, very high temperatures.
We're talking about getting us up to around 7 is 5,000.
Correct. Simulating.
And I understand that you're saying that you're going to get some benefit from each one of these blocks, each one of these phases. You don't have to wait till the end to be able to get benefit to be able to use. So you're going to be testing while you're continuing to
That's correct. Our
nation's
current clean air hypersonic propulsion test capability is fairly limited in both in its scale and its the temperatures that it can get up to. So once we're done with Block 1, it will be the most capable hypersonic propulsion test capability in the United States. When we move into Block 2, we'll be adding additional capability that will allow us to more rigorously develop weapon systems that will utilize these scramjet propulsion technologies. And then Block 3 allows us, as those systems increase in capability into the Mach 7 to Mach 7.5 performance range, we'll still be able to test them in this facility.
It almost sounded like, from something you said a minute ago, that you would be, by the time you get to Block 3, you're going to be using a different brick than you started out with.
We'll be using both, actually. So
both
the first,
well, you're adding more brick that'll
absolutely
handle more heat. Yeah, so
precisely.
Well, very interesting. And again, folks, I think we said that this is you're looking at a 5-year program at somewhere around $240–50 million.
Right.
Yes. Okay. Very good. Well, with that, folks, as we frequently do, we're going to run out of time, so we need to take a short break, and we'll come back and wrap up.
Russell's got your truck, man. Russell's got your truck. Chevy, Ford, and Ram, man. Russell's got your truck. With the best selection anywhere, Russell's got your truck.
Keith Barnett here at the Russell Barnett Automotive family, and man, do we ever have your truck. 4 brands, hundreds to choose from, all at year-end discounted prices. So with so much to choose from, my question is, why buy your next truck anywhere else?
Russell's got your truck, man.
Get your news first, fast, and free with your news leader on 6 every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday nights at 6, 8, and 10 p.m. Local weather, sports, community calendar events, and a comprehensive look at the latest news stories and news makers as only a video news broadcast can do. Get it first, fast, and free with News Leader on Channel 6, your local information network.
Absolutely.
We're back, folks, and today we have been talking about a project at AEDC to transform the existing J5 test facility into something that will handle hypersonic speeds up to Mach 7. And our guest has been Lance Baxter, who is the director of the hypersonic test force at the center. And so, Lance, I want to thank you for coming, of course, but then is there something you'd like to say direct to the folks?
Yeah, absolutely. So none of this would be possible, none of what we do out at AEDC would be possible without the support that we have in this community. Our workforce lives and works in this community, and we participate in this community. We have a number of folks who are scout leaders and teachers and members of the various churches and groups in town, and this community provides an excellent home for the workforce that supports this vital work. And this community is responsible for providing the workforce of the future for AEDC, and the school systems here with strong science, technology, engineering, mathematics programs provide us with the hope that that workforce will be as strong as it needs to be
Say
going
that
forward.
again, you're talking about capability in what we now refer to as the STEM area.
Yep, that's correct. It's
science,
absolutely critical.
Math.
Yep, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and certainly we depend on people with lots of other capabilities as well, but that forms the core of our technical basis at AEDC.
And going from what we do here, you've got to get into the college facility as well.
Absolutely.
So it's important that we provide the workforce, but I must admit the community is as dependent on AEDC as they are on us. So again, thanks very much for taking time to join us. And we thank you folks for inviting us into your parlor, and we will see you next time.